I'll make two different kinds of coleslaw. I'm going to make a vinaigrette base and I'm going to make a mayonnaise base. With my vinaigrette base, I make large quantities of a sweet and sour sauce, I call it. And it's a very simple recipe. Equal parts of vinegar, you can use white or cider, with equal parts of sugar. You can use white or light brown. All depends on the application and the vegetables you're looking to pickle. Okay. Also want to make some pickled beets today. Same exact process. I'll use white vinegar, white sugar, the beet juice that I drained off of the canned beets. You can also boil your own beets when you harvest them from your garden. That's what we did last summer. Canned them, and now the beets are ready for whatever we want. Okay. When you're making pickled items, including coleslaw, you want to give it at least 24 hours under refrigeration for that marinade to set, for the salts to pull the moisture out of the cabbage, for that cabbage to get soft, your carrots to get soft. Most of the vegetables we're going to work with here are kind of crunchy and hard. You can cook them down, but it gives you a totally different flavor dynamic versus doing what's called a cold brine, and that salt, that curing process will happen when you let it sit over a period of time. Under refrigeration, 38, 39 degrees. You don't have to worry so much about spoilage. Okay, if it does spoil, you got sauerkraut. That's a different video. So I want to go through process my vegetables, and I want to make our sauces, and then we're going to shred our cabbage and make two coleslaws up. Okay, so really quite simple. I took all of my vegetables and washed them. I want to go through the processing now. You always want to wash your vegetables, your produce, whatever you get from your produce department, because you have no idea who's been handling them, what's walked over it, how it got from California to here, or Mexico to here, or even the grocery store to your home. There's an awful lot of hands that get in the mix. I talked about yield earlier, so I want to make sure I have minimum scrap. So I take off the root end, peel down the skin. If there's anything on this end that that's damaged or whatever, we want to nip that off. Again, small increments. Do that with both of these. And then you can process your scallions. Now I prefer scallions end to end, okay, depending on the application. If I'm doing a twice baked potato, I'll use the greens and I'll use the whites for another application. Saute it up in an omelet, something of that respect. Okay. For this process, I'm going to use it end to end, and we're just going to go through and cut up our onions. Thin to win, the more slices you put into a product, the more flavor extraction you're going to get, because you're rupturing that many more cells. The more cells you rupture, more flavor extruded. If you wanted to cut this in big chunks, like a log jam, and Mr. Exenberger would not approve of that, one of my mentors, feel free. But you always want to do something that's very small and dainty, okay? So we're going to take those onions, put them over here to the side until we're ready to go. Now, I got a bowl over here to catch all my onion scraps, my celery scraps, my carrot scraps. I keep all of that for the stock, okay? So I'm cooking off the pork butts. Inside each butt is a shoulder blade bone. I'll take those bones, caramelize these vegetables, maybe with a little tomato paste. I'll make a very nice brown stock to use as a gravy over my pulled pork sandwich. So that's the process. My celery, same thing. You can buy all this stuff pre-cut. I like to cut all my own, then I know what I have. I nip off the ends. If I had some leaves in here, I would use that for my soups or my stocks as well. So that process would work. This carrot out over here. And now we're just going to cut this into strips, nice and long. And again, depending on the texture you want in your coleslaw, or whatever your product you're making, you'll cut it as little or as much as possible. I like to have a very fine bite, okay? Again, the more cells you rupture, the more salt that's going to extrude the moisture, the nicer your product's going to be. So we're going to chop this fine, and it's going to go in raw. It's going to go straight into our brine, and we're just going to let that get happy, okay? Some folks boil their brines. That's fine too. You can boil all of your brine, dissolve all that sugar, that all works, and then dump that over your product, okay? When I make things like refrigerator pickles in the summer, I'll slice my cucumbers thin, and then I will salt them overnight. That'll pull all the moisture again. And then I'll make a simple brine, equal parts white vinegar, white sugar, on the stove with some celery seeds, some celery salt, and then to a boil. I Dumped it over my cucumbers with some sliced onions. And then I had a very nice product that I can allow to pickle and brine overnight. And again, away we go. Pickles will keep all winter that way. Put them in a mason jar. You don't even have to can them. That's why they call them refrigerator pickles. You can do dill pickles the same way also. Cut back on your sugar. Normally I'll use a cup of vinegar to a half a cup of sugar. And then I'll put some dill in there. Right? Fresh dill heads. We grow that in our little garden. And then we'll have dill pickles. So like a hamburger slice, if you will. So it's all a matter of going through the processes. So we'll get our celery chopped up off to the side. We're going to clean an onion up. And I don't have to watch what I'm doing when I'm chopping. Okay? I know where the blade is. We'll do a whole segment on knife skills somewhere down the road. Yield. Talked about yield. A lot of people will lump off each end of the onion, throw away half of it. Right? You want to maximize your family budget. Nip off an end in your stock pot. That'll go with them bones again. Nip off your end. And then we're going to skin this. Alright. I want to dice these onions fine as well. Same reasons. Okay? Unless you like to bite into a big chunk of onion. You want to have all of that salt pull out that moisture so those onions are in a good spot. Okay? Now, people cry when they eat an onion, or cut an onion, I apologize. If you take the root end of the onion and put it away from you, and then when you slice through stem end, you're going to rupture a lot less cells, releasing a lot less aromatics, thus you won't tear up. Okay? Now, if I were to turn this around and cut it the other way, I would be rupturing more cells. I know it sounds silly. That's how it was always explained to me. And then you end up with tears. Okay? One of the first things I learned when I was in my apprenticeship was I was told to hold a knife in my teeth. I thought that was silly, but it works. So you're holding a knife in your teeth because you're breathing through your mouth. You're not breathing through your nose, and it won't affect your eyes. Okay? Ooh. Don't cut all the way through. It's hard to hang on to. Okay? So, now we got our onions done, our celery done, our green onions ready. All we got to do yet now is a carrot. As we're going through vegetable prep, I want those carrot skins again for my stock when I make those pork bones into a nice brown gravy. Okay? So, got that. All of my counters have been sanitized before I begin. Can't stress that enough. Get yourself a vegetable peeler right on your board here. Now, vegetable peeler's got two blades to it. Right? A lot of people think right hand, left hand. It's all for back and forth. So all you do is turn the carrot while you're going. Flip that over. Back and forth. And there we go. Now, those carrot skins are going to go right into our stock pot as well. Alright, I will do a whole segment on soups and stocks and sauces at some point. Nip off our end, yield, and then we're just going to dice this up. Okay? Or slice it, or whatever. If I'm doing a stir fry, I'm going to slice this paper thin. Since I'm doing it in the coleslaw, I'm going to dice it. Now you can, and I'll do that with the other half, or the other slaw, shred it. Utilizing a box grater, or a rasp, if you have one. I like the box grater. Gives you a nice shredded carrot. Life is good. Off to the side. Ooh, another one. Cheated. Box grater, I'll use the coarse side. Now this won't work for your cabbage, right? You're going to need a cabbage cutter if you're doing that, or a food processor will work. But you always want to lay your hand flat whenever you're working on one of these, okay? These used to be called knuckle biters. But if you leave your hand flat and not too much pressure, you won't cut yourself. So you just hold your carrot or cheese or whatever you're trying to shred. at an angle, about a 45-degree angle, and then use your hand pressure to guide it into the blades, if you would. It's really not a blade. But it can get you if you do enough. So keep your fingers flat. Flat, flat, flat. And then when you get done, you're going to have a little piece like this. You put it back to the knife. Okay? So now we got our mise en place ready. Mise en place, prepare for the day, right? Everything in its place. We got our sink ready with our sanitizing water. And now we can go ahead and make our dressing. Set this off to the side for a second. I just can't leave this, sorry. There we go. Set this out of the way for a second. Alright. Clean as you go, clean as you go. Makes the end of the process easy. Vinegar in the bowl. Not too rough. 1 cup. Sugar in the bowl. Now again, if you want to dissolve your sugar, you can heat this now or microwave it in the brine, right, in with the vinegar. Don't add all your spices in though until after it comes out. Wire whisk. I got a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of Lowry seasoning in the bowl. If you wanted to add pepper, you could. If you wanted to use hot sauce, now you can put it in. If you wanted to use cayenne, you wanted to use whatever, that all can go in your dance now. Okay? Bring that together. For the coleslaw, I like to use dill weed or dill seed. Today I got seed. Some fresh parsley, if we have. I just put that in there, and celery seeds. Just personal preference. These recipes will be posted on the video and a link to them. You bring this together, and then you let her dissolve. Okay? Again, if you wanted to heat that, you can. Alright, now we're going to get our cabbage out of the way. Cabbage comes in whole by the head. I paid 89 cents for this whole head of cabbage. I can get a lot of coleslaw out of this. Now you can buy the cabbage bag, but read the labels. You want to have 100% cabbage. You don't want to have any nitrates, any additives, any preservatives in there, because all of that your family will ingest. Buy a head of cabbage, so you're going to act St. Patrick's Day for your corned beef and cabbage boil. Peel off the outer skins. These do not go in the stock pot. Okay, they tend to be a little astringent, so you want to stay away from that. And we'll move our board back. I apologize. And all we're going to do is shred this head of cabbage. Inside every head of cabbage is a core. Okay, you can face that off. The cabbage, you can run on your box grater and shred, or the core, I'm sorry, run on your box grater and shred that right into your coleslaw too. 100% usable product. All right, just peel off the dead leaves, and you're in a good spot. Just for demo's sake, cut that off. I cut from the top of the crown to the root, and very, very fine slices, right? Now, if you have an mandolin, that would speed this process up. Again, watch your knuckles. The more you shred it, the finer you slice it, the more cells you get in rupture, the more salt will draw out the moisture of the cabbage. So it's very important that when you're going through this process, you slice it as thin as you can. Some people will dice this. If that's what you like for your texture, great. Southern style, if you would. It's all fine. All can be done. Okay. So I'll go ahead and shred the rest of that down the road here. But right now, bring my brine back. I'm going to reserve part of that for my mayonnaise base, because I do want the vinegar and the salt and flavor in there, but not a lot. To this, I'm going to put my cabbage. Just fluff it up in there. Now, if that core were in there, that would all hold it together in a strand. Sometimes you might get sauerkraut or buy cabbage in the bag, and you see this big accordion of cabbage. It's because the core is still intact. Trim the core away, or else it will all fall apart. I'll use my shredded cabbage in this one. I'm going to use some of my onions. I'm going to use some of my celery. And I'm going to use some of my green onions. We're going to mix that all together. And now we got coleslaw. The acidity in this, right, pH, is not very neutral, okay? It's kind of high. So, from a serve safe perspective, this product should be fine. Clean hands, clean product, high acidity. You should not have any issues with spoilage, okay? If you boil that brine, that will give you one more step of protection, if you would, before you dump it over your cabbage. And now, we'll just stir this every couple of hours, and that salt's going to pull that out. Tomorrow, this is all going to be soft and tender. Very, very good to eat. And that brine is going to pull out and have more to it because of all the moisture that you've extruded. All right, so that one's done. Now we're going to jump right in, and we're going to make our mayonnaise base. We're at roughly a half a cup of brine that we reserved. I didn't wash the container in between because it's the same ingredients, okay? If we were working with another product, we didn't have the vinegar present, I would end up washing all this up or have another setup, okay? Add our mayonnaise, 1 cup. If you want to use salad dressing, like a Miracle Whip or something of that perspective, because you like it sweeter, feel free. It works just fine and dandy. Personal preference again. Get this whipped up. Now we have a coleslaw dressing. Don't have to buy it in a jar for $8, right? Made your own. We're going to get ourselves another chunk of cabbage. Okay, now if you wanted to have this diced, go ahead and chop it up. Okay, again. And this will work really good on your sandwich because you get your nice pork on your nice bun, nice slathering of this here coleslaw, a touch of barbecue or honey mustard, and you got yourself some pretty good chewing. Okay. All right, cabbage in. Now if you wanted to add poppy seeds or something to this, feel free. Again, you can be creative as you like. Get all of our carrots. The rest of our green onions. And the last of those onions I'm going to use in my pickled beets. Okay? Now, get our spatula. Bring this all together and we got coleslaw. And all of this whole batch here, feed 8 to 10 people. You can have this all done for under $1. Okay? Go to the deli counter the next time and buy yourself some coleslaw and see what the price is. Now, we're living in a day and age where groceries are crazy expensive. I don't know if any of you go shopping. I would assume most of you eat. But if you can make it at home, especially folks who are maybe laid off or not working, give your family a better product, better for their everything, okay? Everything they consume. Helps them build strong bones. Get them some protein, and you can still do this on a decent budget, okay? So now we got our coleslaw. This particular one, with the beets, this one I'm going to boil, okay? So I'm going to put myself 2 cups of sugar this time, 2 cups of white vinegar into the pot. We're going to add the beet juice to it, bring that to a boil, and dump it over our beets. I'm going to do some vegetables in there. I'm going to put the onions, slice up a little onion so I got some texture and contrast. Let her sit on the beets for 24 hours and you got a very, very nice product. So, on the stove we go. Alright. That's pretty much what I got for coleslaws, right? So whenever you're doing a pickled product, equal parts sugar and vinegar. Adjust to your personal preference. The type of sugar really doesn't matter. You can use what you prefer. Same with your vinegars. You want to use a balsamic, you want to use a red wine, you want to use a cider. It's all personal preference. Add your ingredients to it. Let it soak at least 24 hours and get happy. Keep it under refrigeration. You'll have a very safe product to your family. So, after 24 hours in our marinades, we have our finished creamy coleslaw. We have our finished vinaigrette coleslaw. And our pickled beets. all which can be used for a side for any product.